Okay, everyone, we've all heard by now that Bryan Kohberger, multiple murderer who pleaded guilty to killing 4 University of Idaho college students, wants to withdraw his guilty plea. He's serving 4 consecutive life sentences, one for each victim. Madison Mogen, age 21, Kaylee Gonsalves, age 21, Xana Kernodle, age 20, and Ethan Chapin, age 20. Now, Kohberger was sentenced a year ago. He's in maximum security where he reported being harassed by fellow inmates initially. He was moved to long-term solitary confinement where he's in a one-person cell 23 hours a day with 1 hour of outdoor recreation, and he wears restraints. Doesn't sound so bad given what he did. Now, he pled guilty to avoid the possibility of the death penalty in a shock development just weeks before his trial was set to begin last year. Now, recently, a book was released that questioned the plea in his case. Apparently, debris had been found in the hands of 2 of his victims. Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, both 20 years old and a couple. Now, public court documents initially did not identify the debris found in their hands. The book that was released was written by retired FBI agent Chris Whitcomb. He says the debris found in the hand of Ethan Chapin were clumps of hair. The Whitcomb said the hair wasn't tested to his knowledge. Now, a court document was unsealed earlier this year. It turns out Kohberger's defense team did, in fact, test the hair found in Chapin's hand. They used a DNA expert, Ruth Ballard, who tested one hair from the right hand of Chapin and said it was morphologically consistent with decedent Chapin's own reference hair. I emphasize DNA expert because hair analysis without the DNA match isn't reliable for identification, but with DNA, yes, it is. So, okay. The defense counsel was Ann Taylor, the chief public defender for the county. Now, there aren't many Idaho attorneys who meet the qualifications to conduct a death penalty defense. She did it right. She brought in the DNA expert. Now, Kohberger, from what I can tell, is suggesting that Ethan Chapin is the murderer, which is outrageous. Now, Kohberger's DNA was on a knife sheath found next to one of the victims. The snap on the knife sheath had his DNA on it. Now, his car was captured on surveillance footage as well, circling the victim's rented house before the murders, then speeding away afterward. Cell tower data showed Kohberger's phone in the area at the time of the attack, and he didn't live in the area. He was a Ph.D. student in criminology at the University of Washington, where he was also a teaching assistant. There were numerous complaints at the University of Washington from students, staff, and teachers about Kohberger's condescending attitudes towards women, including harsher grading of female students. One faculty member said Kohberger exhibited the typical traits of a predator. Now, he received a formal warning about his classroom behavior, which placed his job as a teaching assistant in jeopardy. People have theorized about his motives. His Ph.D. subject matter shows a fascination with crime, which he might have tried to transition into reality. He had a desire for control and performance, as shown by the organization and execution of the nighttime attack. And he might have had a brief social encounter with Madison Mogen, one of the victims. Now, these were very popular and outgoing co-eds who all lived in the rented house. They had parties just about every weekend, apparently. So there were always people going in and out. There were 6 co-eds living in the house. Ethan Chapin did not live there. The remaining co-eds who survived were Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, both young women. Now, Dylan Mortensen was in an upstairs bedroom and heard noises. She opened her bedroom door and saw Kohberger walk right past the door. It's believed he saw her as he walked past, but after killing 4 people with a knife and they all fought back, he was probably exhausted and done killing for the night. Can he withdraw his guilty plea? Well, he's been sentenced already, and now he's serving his sentence. So that makes it a lot tougher, very, very tough after sentencing, because there are constitutional standards. A guilty plea must be made knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently. By pleading guilty, he gives up many constitutional rights: the right to a speedy and public trial by jury, the right to remain silent, the right to compel witnesses by subpoena, the right to compel the government to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. What Kohberger says, and his assertions have to be verified, but he says that his attorney failed to inform him of the allegedly exculpatory evidence regarding the clumps of hair found in Ethan Chapin's hand. Now, maybe the defense attorney did tell Kohberger, but he doesn't remember that she told him, or he's being untruthful. Now, if it's true that she didn't tell him, potentially it could be because it doesn't necessarily seem like exculpatory evidence, not to us anyway. Ethan Chapin maybe could have done this to his own hair, pulled out clumps of his own hair. Is Kohberger saying Xana Kernodle pulled out his hair and he grabbed it from her before stabbing her a bazillion times? Then is Kohberger alleging that Ethan Chapin went around stabbing Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonsalves? Now, Kohberger seems to allege that Ethan Chapin did all that, then laid himself back down near Xana Kernodle and died there with a clump of his own hair in his right hand. So when we break down his allegation, it's not Brady. Doesn't seem like Brady, but it should have been disclosed to him, and I'd be surprised if it wasn't. As I mentioned, Kohberger could be having a memory lapse about the non-disclosure. His defense attorney has numerous confidentiality obligations, even beyond the attorney-client privilege, despite now being accused of ineffective assistance of counsel. So, what she can say must be limited to the specific issue on which the ineffective assistance assertion is based. Did she tell Kohberger about the DNA hair analysis and explain what exculpatory evidence is, etc.? Now, beyond that, whether Kohberger says she's lying or that he wasn't fully informed by her communications, etc., the court doesn't need the attorney's testimony to determine the rest of that. Now, what catches my attention about this is that the court document containing the information about the hair analysis was sealed, which indicates to me, and this is just my view, okay, because I don't know for a fact what happened. It just seems to indicate that the attorney did tell Kohberger, and the defense team wanted the court record sealed because it would cause controversy. Now, what else about this should we pay attention to? A motion to seal must be granted by the judge. So the judge is already aware of the contents of the document, and the judge was aware of the contents when he accepted the guilty plea. Now, this seems to indicate that the judge didn't regard the DNA hair analysis as exculpatory enough, okay? Not a smoking gun that would prevent him from accepting a guilty plea. Now, Kohberger is currently representing himself in the attempt to withdraw the guilty plea. He's asked the court to appoint counsel, but he's not entitled to it. Now, after a conviction, the Constitution only requires court-appointed counsel for the first direct appeal, and the appeal deadline in Kohberger's case passed a long time ago. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.